All right, so are you ready to dive deep? Today, we're tackling personal discipline. We're using 5 habits of highly disciplined men as our source material.
Interesting title.
It is, right? But before anyone thinks this is only for the guys out there,
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
these principles, trust me, they apply to everyone.
Absolutely.
And okay, yes, the source can get a bit intense at times,
Oh, yeah.
with all the warrior metaphors, that kind of thing. But don't worry, we're here to sift through all that.
Yeah.
And we'll extract the truly useful stuff just for you.
It's like panning for gold, right?
Exactly.
Little nuggets of wisdom hidden within. We're going to help you find them.
Love that analogy. And speaking of nuggets, the first one we're digging into, it's all about mastering your mornings.
Ah, the morning routine.
The source really emphasizes this. A solid morning routine sets you up for success. They even tell this story about a guy, they call him Procrastinating Pete.
Procrastinating Pete.
Yeah.
What'd he do?
He completely turned his life around just by nailing down his morning routine.
Interesting. It's funny because a lot of people think that morning routine stuff is just like motivational fluff.
Right.
But there's a real psychological impact. Starting your day with intention, like even small wins early on, making your bed, having a healthy breakfast. It creates like a ripple effect of accomplishment.
Okay, I like this. So I'm picturing this ripple effect, like knocking over dominoes.
Exactly.
One small win, it leads to the next, and suddenly, boom, you're unstoppable.
That's the idea.
But let's be real. Some mornings, I can barely find matching socks, let alone conquer the world. What about those days when you're just not feeling it?
I get it. We all have those days. But that's where consistency comes in. Think of it like training a muscle. The more you practice starting your day with intention, the stronger that morning win muscle becomes. And actually, the source, they give some really practical tips for building this consistency.
Oh, okay. Like what? Spill the beans. I need all the help I can get.
Well, one thing they talk about is clarity. Like, instead of just vaguely saying, I want to be productive in the morning, get specific. What do you actually want to achieve?
So have like a mini mission for my morning.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
And then they recommend actually writing down your morning routine, almost like a checklist. It kind of helps solidify it in your mind, makes it easier to stick to even when your motivation is low. You just look at the list.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try that. But what about like those mornings where your plan just gets completely derailed?
Yeah.
Like you oversleep or, I don't know, your kid spills orange juice all over your neatly planned out day.
Life happens,
Yeah.
right? Well, the source actually addresses that too. They emphasize flexibility within structure. So it's not about being rigid. It's about having a plan you can adapt.
Okay, so like if I miss my morning workout,
Yeah,
can I squeeze in a quick walk later in the day?
exactly.
Or if my schedule gets thrown off, can I just adjust my to-do list? Prioritize like the most important tasks.
Yeah, it's not about being perfect. It's about having a framework to keep you on track.
I like that. It takes the pressure off of it.
It should. And that framework, it leads nicely into the next habit we'll be talking about, time management magic. The source uses this very vivid analogy, a chef in a busy kitchen.
A chef in a busy kitchen. Okay, I'm intrigued. So we've got our morning sorted. But what about like the rest of the day? How do we keep that momentum going? Is that where this chef analogy comes in?
Yes, it's all about prioritizing, just like a chef. They wouldn't, be garnishing a dish if the main course is burning.
Makes sense.
The source really stresses identifying those high-impact tasks, the ones that actually move you closer to your goals.
So figuring out what the main course tasks are in our own lives. But sometimes, honestly, my to-do list, it feels like a 5-course meal for like 100 people. Where'd I even begin?
It can feel overwhelming, but one thing the source suggests, it's simple, but it's really effective. Break those big goals down into smaller, more manageable steps. Like if your goal is to write a book, right? Don't focus on the whole massive project. Break it down. Daily writing goals. Even if it's just a paragraph or two. Each day.
Okay, yeah, that makes it seem a lot less daunting after that little paragraph. But then how do I actually fit those smaller tasks into my already like jam-packed schedule? This is where that time blocking thing comes in, right?
Exactly. Time blocking, it's essentially assigning specific blocks of time in your day for specific activities. It's like making reservations for your tasks in your calendar. So let's say you want to work on that book, right?
Yeah.
30 minutes each day. You block off that time, maybe first thing in the morning before things get too crazy.
So it's like creating a roadmap for my time. No, we're just wandering through the day hoping I get things done.
Right. And the cool thing about time blocking is it helps you actually see how you're spending your time. You might be surprised how much time we actually waste
Yeah.
on things like social media or responding to emails.
Okay, ouch. That one hit a little close to home. But it's so true. I always feel busy, but I don't always, like, accomplish what I set out to do.
Right. That's where this intentional use of time comes in. And it doesn't have to be rigid. Leave some room for flexibility,
Yeah.
for breaks, for things that pop up. It's about having a plan, but being able to adapt within that plan.
Yeah, I like that. It's about finding a balance. Okay, so we've got our mornings. We're time blocking like pros. What's next?
Well, now we tackle the moments of weakness. Those times when the best laid plans kind of go astray, like when that extra slice of cake is calling your name.
Oh, yeah. I know that call all too well. This is about willpower, isn't it?
It is. This brings us to the next habit from the source. The power of delayed gratification. They actually referenced that famous marshmallow test. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, where they gave kids a choice, right? One marshmallow now, or wait and get two later.
Exactly.
I love that experiment. It's so fascinating. How the kids who could delay gratification end up being more successful later in life. But does that mean we have to live, like, a life of denial? Always choosing the responsible thing over, like, the fun thing?
Not at all. It's not about depriving yourself. It's more about making conscious choices that are aligned with your long-term goals. Sometimes it does mean saying no to that extra slice of cake, but other times it means rewarding yourself, right?
Right.
For working hard, for achieving something. It's all about balance.
Balance. Okay.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. But how do we actually get better at this? How do we strengthen that delayed gratification muscle?
Yeah.
Because let's be real, sometimes it feels like I'm fighting a losing battle here.
I hear you. It's not easy. But think of it like any other muscle you're trying to train. You have to work it out. So the more you practice delaying gratification, the stronger your willpower becomes. Each time you choose, the harder path, the more rewarding path, you're basically giving your willpower a workout.
Okay, so each time I resist that tempting thing, I'm actually getting stronger.
Exactly. And over time, those choices, those harder choices, they become easier.
I like the sound of that. So it's not about being superhuman, it's just about making those small choices.
That's the key. Consistency. But hey, let's be honest. Some areas, they're way harder to delay gratification than others.
Oh, tell me about it. Like, I can usually resist that extra cookie.
Yeah.
But when it comes to learning a new skill, procrastination city, it's so much easier just to, like, watch TV or scroll on my phone.
That actually leads perfectly into the next habit. This one's all about continuous learning.
Oh, okay.
Making learning a lifestyle. The source uses this great analogy, brushing your teeth for your brain.
I love that.
It emphasizes that learning should be a daily habit.
It makes it seem less like a chore and more like something that's, like, essential for our mental well-being.
Well,
But I will admit, sometimes I feel like I'm consuming all this information, but I'm not really absorbing any of it. It's like I'm stuffing my brain with knowledge, but then it just leaks out the other side.
that's a common problem. And it's why the source emphasizes active learning over passive consumption.
Okay, so what's the difference?
So instead of just, reading a book or watching a documentary, try doing something with the information. Take notes. Summarize the key points. Maybe even teach what you've learned to someone else.
Ah, the old, if you want to learn something, teach it trick. That's a good one. But I also get overwhelmed by, like, all the things I want to learn. I don't even know where to start.
Well, the source says, start with a clear goal. What's one skill you've been wanting to develop? Is it learning a language? Mastering a new software program? Maybe just becoming a better cook?
Okay, that makes sense. I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. But I always tell myself, oh, I don't have time, or I'm too old to start something new.
It's never too late. And the key is break it down into smaller steps. Don't try to be like Jimi Hendrix overnight.
Right.
Maybe just start with like a few basic chords or find a beginner's guitar course online.
Okay, that seems way less intimidating. And if I just commit to practicing, even 15 minutes a day, I can make some really progress.
Exactly. And don't underestimate that consistency. Small steps done regularly can lead to amazing growth.
So it's not about being like a musical genius or anything. It's just about showing up and putting in the effort.
That's the heart of it. And one last thing the source mentions, find a community.
Oh,
Other learners. Join a class, find a study buddy, or just connect online.
with people who share your interest.
It gives you motivation.
Accountability.
Sure.
It's like having a cheering section for your learning journey. And speaking of journeys, We've covered a lot today, haven't we? 5 habits, all unpacked. We've even thrown in some real-life examples along the way. What stands out to you? What's the most valuable thing we've talked about so far?
It's interesting, isn't it, how they all kind of tie together, these
For
habits?
you, yeah.
Mastering your morning, it sets the stage for time management. And prioritizing your tasks helps you make time for learning and personal growth. Then you've got delayed gratification, and that helps you stay focused on those bigger goals.
Yeah, it's like they're all puzzle pieces, you know. They
Yeah.
fit together to create a more, like, disciplined and fulfilling life.
Hmm.
And what I really like is that it's not about, like, changing your entire personality or anything. It's just small, consistent choices we make every day.
Exactly. And that's a big point the source makes, Discipline, it's not about perfection. It's not about having like superhuman willpower. It's about building those habits
Mm.
one step at a time and being kind to yourself along the way because let's face it, we all mess up sometime.
Oh, absolutely. We fall off the wagon. The key is
Yeah.
just to get back on, dust yourself off, and keep going.
Mm.
And that's where I think having a supportive community could be so helpful. Having people who get it.
Totally. People who encourage you, who understand when you're struggling, and who celebrate your wins with you, it makes a huge difference. Like having a team of cheerleaders, but for your personal growth.
I love that. Cheerleaders for personal growth. That's a great image.
Oh.
But, speaking of journeys, I think we've reached the end of ours for today. We've explored these 5 habits, unpacked them, shared some thoughts and stories along the way. But now comes the really important part, putting this knowledge into action. Because we all know information without action, well, it's kind of useless.
It's like having a recipe but never actually cooking anything. What's the point?
Right. So we want to leave you with a little challenge. Think about one area in your life, just one, where you want to create more discipline.
Mhm.
Maybe it's sticking to that morning routine. Maybe it's finally tackling that creative project you've been putting off. Maybe it's committing to learning that new skill. Whatever it is, think about the very next choice you can make right now to move you closer to that goal.
Like it could be as simple as setting your alarm 15 minutes earlier or blocking off 30 minutes in your calendar for focused work. Maybe it's signing up for that online course you've been thinking about. Just one small step.
Right. And remember, it's not about making some huge change overnight. It's about those consistent actions that, over time, they build on each other. They create real change.
Exactly. So what's that one tiny step you can take today? What choice will set you on that path towards a more disciplined life, a more fulfilling life? The power is in your hands.
Couldn't said it better myself.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next time to explore some more fascinating topics with you. Until then, stay curious, stay motivated, and keep leveling up.